What's going on, everybody? And I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. But let's get straight into this MMA news. So I'm pretty sure this was Dana White talking about the replacement for the Conor McGregor card on UFC 303, but he leaked the UFC 305 fight card, and these are the fighters that were confirmed to get on that fight card. At the top we have Israel Adesanya, then in the co-main we have Song Yadong, JDM in third, Steve Erceg in fourth, and Drakkar in fifth. So these are the fights we got confirmed, but the matchups that we're going to get with them, that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. So let's get straight into that. So let's go from the bottom to the top of this card. At the bottom of this card, we have Drakkar Klose versus Dan Hooker. That's the fight that I think they're going to make because it's in Australia, so it has to be Drakkar versus some Australian fighter. And it's most likely going to be Dan Hooker. And, come on, this is a banger fight right here. You already know when Dan Hooker's fighting, you're watching that fight. Dan Hooker never goes out there and has a boring fight, win or loss. Dan Hooker is a savage. And you've seen all those tattoos and all that stuff he's gotten lately. Come on. He's like Supreme Dan Hooker now. He's not no baby Dan Hooker that we're used to. My early prediction for this fight, I think Dan Hooker might take it. Drakkar Klose is a great fighter, and I like him a lot. Like watching his fight style, but Dan Hooker is a savage, man. He just goes out there and looks for the finish. So, I don't know. I think that one, Dan Hooker finish, for sure. Next fight on the card, we got Steve Erceg versus Kai Kara-France. Come on. Steve Erceg, everybody was like, oh, undeserved title shot this, undeserved title shot that for him when he fought Pantoja. But come on, he arguably could have won that fight. When I was watching it live, I think in my head, I thought Steve Erceg won. But him versus Kai Kara-France, that's also a great fight. Because you know Kai Kara-France is nasty on the feet. This guy's a gremlin. Just look at him. He looks like a little gremlin. Alright? He's going to come out there and bring the heat. And you know Steve Erceg is also going to come out there and bring the heat. So that one's a banger fight. Regardless of what's going on. Because those two guys always bring the heat. In the flyweight division. Flyweights, they just go out there and fight for their lives. It's insane. Everybody wants to hate on the flyweight division, call it boring and all that, but most of the fights are pretty bangers because everybody in the flyweight division has to be insanely good to make it to the top of the UFC. You have to be super skilled to be in the top 15 of the flyweights. But next fight on the card, this might be my favorite fight on the card. Shavkat the Nomad Rakhmonov versus Jack Della Maddalena. This is the best fight right now you can make in the welterweight division. Tell me not. Because Shavkat, 18-0, all finishes. JDM is out here finishing Gilbert Burns, comeback in the last round. Oh my god, that's going to be a banger of a fight. My early prediction for this fight, of course, I'm backing my boy Shavkat Rakhmonov, my cousin Shavkat Rakhmonov, 18-0. He's going to be 19-0 with a finish. TKO submission, don't matter. It's going to be a finish. You know he's going to come out there and destroy whoever's in front of him. And he's going to go out there and finish whoever has the belt and become champion in this year or next year. Because this fight card is a little later, so probably next year. But regardless, Shavkat versus JDM, that's the best fight they can make for JDM right now. In this, and he called out Shavkat Rakhmonov in his last fight, so it doesn't make sense for him to fight anybody else but Shavkat Rakhmonov. In the co-main event, the only reason why I think Song Yadong would be in the co-main event is only because he's fighting Kai Asakura. That's the only way they'll put that fight, Song Yadong, over Shavkat and JDM. That's the only way, because Kai Asakura has so much hype coming from him from Japan and Rizin. And he's literally the champ over there, so he has to be in the co-main. And I think for him to come in the UFC and take Song Yadong as his first fight, that's not an easy fight. Song Yadong is one of the most well-rounded fighters we have in the UFC and in the bantamweight division. Bantamweights are no joke. That fight he had against Petr Yan was one of the closer fights I've seen in a minute. Even though Petr Yan, he definitely edged it out towards the end, he gave Petr Yan a tough fight. And that, Song Yadong is a tough fight for anybody, especially for your first fight in the UFC. So if Kai Asakura goes out there and just finishes Song Yadong, or he goes out there and just destroys Song Yadong every round, they're definitely gonna push this guy. He's definitely worthy of getting pushed because Song Yadong is not a joke. He's one of the greater fighters in the bantamweight division, especially when we're talking about well-rounded fighters, because this guy can box, this guy can grapple. I don't know much about Kai Asakura because I only watch the UFC, but I heard that he's pretty good, so we'll see what happens with that one. And I hope Kai Asakura wins because we need some new blood in the bantamweight division. I'm sick of seeing the same dudes go over and over again, even though it would be kind of sad to see Song Yadong lose again, because this guy, like, he can never get a title shot. He's always just losing, like, right when he's about to get it, so I kind of feel bad for him there. But regardless, it'd be nice to see Kai Asakura get a win and see him, like, fight for the championship. That would be dope. But in the main event, Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis. Come on. Everybody's hating on this fight, saying undeserved title shot this, undeserved title shot that. Bro, Steve Erceg is here, bruh. Steve Erceg, who did he fight to get his title shot against Alexander Pantoja? Israel Adesanya is arguably one of the greatest middleweights of all time. Regardless of his shenanigans outside of the cage and what he be doing with his dog, we're not going to speak on that. He's a great fighter, man. Everybody got hyped when he knocked out Alex Pereira. Who else in the UFC can say they knocked out Alex Pereira? Nobody. Like, come on. That was one of the greatest knockouts I've ever seen. Israel Adesanya is out here finishing Robert Whittaker. Dricus du Plessis finished Robert Whittaker also. So that's another reason why this fight should happen. But everybody's saying, oh, it should have been Sean Strickland. Bruh, it doesn't even matter. Whoever wins this fight is going to fight Sean Strickland. They're going to get their run back rematch with Sean Strickland. So it doesn't matter. Whoever wins this fight is going to get their rematch. Sean Strickland just fought anyways. So this is the best fight you can make right now for the belt. Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis. My early prediction for this fight is that Israel Adesanya is going to knock Dricus du Plessis out in the first or second round. That's because what is Dricus du Plessis going to do? The only way I can see Dricus du Plessis winning this fight is just outmanning Israel Adesanya, like just throwing him around and like getting him down and mount and beating him up, or just getting him in like a brolic arm triangle and just submitting him like that. Those are the only ways I see Dricus du Plessis beating Israel Adesanya. I do not see him knocking out Israel Adesanya. That's definitely not happening. And if it stays on the feet, you know that Izzy's going to be chopping those leg kicks. He's going to be chopping Dricus down. He's going to be hitting those kicks to his body, just eating at his gas tank until he's waiting for Dricus to open up and he throws that shot straight down the pipe, just knocks him out cold. That's what I feel like is going to happen. He's going to knock out DDP in the first or second round for sure. And you see those videos he's making lately? This is not Champion Izzy. Champion Izzy can be stinky sometimes. This is Contender Izzy. Come on, Contender Izzy is different. He went out there and knocked out Alex Pereira, the Thanos of the UFC. This guy, Israel Adesanya, is not a joke, bruh. Everybody's like just hates on him now. It's like a trend to just hate on him now. Like, even though his shenanigans outside of the cage are kind of weird, he's a great fighter, man. If Israel Adesanya is fighting, you're watching that fight no matter what. Everybody wants to talk all that crap, but you're still watching his fight, man. You're still tuning in to watch Izzy fight because like he's one of the greatest fighters in the UFC. Out of the top 3 cash cows in the UFC, Israel Adesanya has to be there somewhere. He brings in the most eyes to the sport, regardless of where he's from, because he's just a great fighter. But these are my early predictions for the UFC 305 fight card. And tell me not, this is amazing fight card right here. If this is the fight card that we get from Dana White, come on, you're gonna be so hyped to watch this fight card. Whole main card is stacked. The whole main card. You're not missing one of these fights. Even the flyweight fight. Come on, that one might be the contender for fight of the night, depending on how it goes. But Shavkat Rakhmonov, my cousin, also fighting. Oh my God, Song Yadong versus Kai Asakura, Dan Hooker versus Drakkar Klose. All these fights are certified bangers. There's definitely not going to be a boring fight on this card. So these are my early predictions for these fights. And I think this will be a great night of fights. And there's no Volkanovski, which is... everybody's like sad about no Volkanovski, but why are you sad, bro? I do not want to see Volkanovski get knocked out again. Every time I see a video of Volkanovski cooking or doing anything, like just chilling with his family, I get depressed, bro, because like this guy could have been one of the GOATs of the UFC. Like, oh my God, like just seeing Volkanovski just makes me sad because like that's just like the power of MMA. MMA, you're on top of the world at one point, and then in your next fight, you're literally like people are just saying you're washed. You're never gonna fight again. It's the best and like the worst sport of all time because of that. Like it has the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. But regardless of all that, these are the early predictions. And if you disagree with any of these matchups, you think that somebody else is going to come in there and fight one of the confirmed fighters that we got, please tell me in the comments right here, the confirmed fighters, because these are the fighters we're getting for sure. But if you think they're going to be fighting somebody else, please let me know in the comments. And regardless, have a great night. And thank you for tuning in to my video.